I shouldn't have listened to that voicemail. Not at 3 a.m., alone in the parking garage after my late shift at the mall. But when an unknown number leaves you 7 messages in the span of 2 hours, curiosity gets the better of you. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I sat in my car, thumb hovering over the play button. The first message started with heavy breathing, just labored inhales and exhales for 30 seconds. Then a man's voice trembling, Jenny, I need you to listen carefully. What they're saying about me on the news isn't true. I wouldn't, you know me. You know I could never. The message cut off. My name isn't Jenny, but something in his desperate tone made me keep listening. The second message came in at 1:47 a.m. They're watching the house, police cars everywhere. I can see their flashlights through the trees. I'm in the old shed behind the Williams place, you remember? Where we used to... Please, Jenny, I need your help. Just come get me, please. I should have deleted the messages right then. Should have called the police. Instead, I played the third one. They found the others, in the basement. But it wasn't me, Jenny. You have to believe me. Someone's setting me up. The tools, the plastic sheets, they weren't mine. I never... Oh God, they're coming closer. Message 4 was mostly rustling sounds, footsteps on leaves, ragged breathing, then a whispered, I'm running through the woods now, lost my shoes, feet are bleeding, cold, so cold. Remember that camping trip, Jenny, when we got lost and had to spend the night in that cave? This feels like that, only this time I don't think I'm making it out. The fifth message chilled me to my core. Jenny, I just remembered something important. You changed your number last month. This isn't your new number, is it? Oh God, who am I talking to? Who's been listening to these messages? My hands were shaking as I played message 6. His voice was different now, calmer, unnervingly so. Whoever you are, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to hear all this. But maybe this is fate. Maybe you're meant to understand, to see why I did it, why they deserved it. Jenny never understood. She thought I was sick, needed help. But you'll understand, won't you? The final message came in just 20 minutes ago. I can see you, sitting there in your red Toyota. Level P3, space 217. You've been listening to my messages for the past 10 minutes, looking over your shoulder, wondering if I'm watching. I am, and you know what? You look just like Jenny. I dropped my phone because I was indeed sitting in a red Toyota on level P3, space 217. My hands fumbled with the keys as I looked around frantically. The garage was empty, just rows of concrete pillars and fluorescent lights stretching into darkness. I started the engine. That's when my phone started ringing again. Unknown number, the same one. On the 4th ring, I answered. Silence. Then a voice, not the desperate, scared man from the messages. This voice was calm, confident, close. You should have deleted those messages. I floored the accelerator, tires screeching against concrete. In my rearview mirror, a shadow moved between the pillars. My phone rang again, and again. As I sped up the ramp toward the exit, a text message came through. You really do look like Jenny. Same hair, same eyes, same look of terror on your face when you realize there's nowhere to run. The exit gate was down. Of course it was. My late-night employee access card should have opened it automatically, but the red light just kept blinking. Denied, denied, denied. Another text. Jenny tried to run too. I abandoned my car and ran for the emergency exit. The handle moved, but the door didn't budge. Another message. Check your back seat. I didn't want to look, didn't want to turn around, but I did. There, on the leather seat where I had been sitting just minutes ago, was a Polaroid photograph. It showed my parking spot, my car, taken days ago, and written on the white space below, Jenny used to park here too. That's when I noticed something else in the photo. A dark shape in the background, standing between 2 pillars. Watching, waiting, planning. My phone is almost dead now, battery at 2%. I've been hiding in the stairwell for hours, listening to footsteps echo through the garage, sometimes close, sometimes far away, playing with me. The police are on their way. I managed to send them my location before the calls started flooding in, blocking my signal. But here's the thing about those messages. I finally realized why his voice sounded familiar. 3 months ago, there was a news story. A man arrested for stalking women in parking garages, taking photos, learning their routines. 6 women disappeared. They found them in his basement, posed to look like they were sleeping. The last victim was named Jenny. He escaped custody last week. The police warned he might try to recreate his crimes. Returned to his hunting grounds. I should have paid attention to those warnings, should have switched parking spots, changed my routine, anything. Now my phone screen lights up one final time, a text message. Found you. I never thought buying abandoned storage units could get you killed. 10 years in the business, and the worst I'd encountered was a raccoon family or some questionable magazines. But storage unit number 247 changed everything. It started with a voice message from the facility manager. Hey Mike, got a unique situation here. Unit's been abandoned for 9 years, owner declared dead last month. Might interest you. I should have been suspicious when he offered it for 1/10 of the normal auction price. Just take it, he said in his second message. Previous buyer backed out, said something felt wrong, but you've got experience with this stuff. Just don't open it at night. Trust me on that. I laughed it off. Storage hunters are a superstitious bunch. The lock was unusually heavy, industrial grade, not the cheap ones people normally use. Inside my recording app, I started my standard video documentation. Unit number 247, April 15, 2024. The door squealed as I rolled it up. The smell hit me first. Old paper and chemicals, like a forgotten dark room. Photographs, thousands of them. Every wall was covered, floor to ceiling, all showing empty rooms, empty streets, empty playgrounds, empty cars, each meticulously labeled with dates spanning decades. But something was off about them. In some corners, you could almost see smudges, like someone had carefully erased parts of the images. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voicemail. You opened the door. You weren't supposed to open the door. He spent years collecting them, documenting them, the moments right after, always right after, when the spaces were still warm, when you could still smell their fear. In the back corner, I found the darkroom setup. Professional equipment, decades old but well-maintained. The chemical trays still held liquid, recent liquid, and floating in one of them, a photograph was still developing. Today's date was written in the corner. It showed my car in the parking lot outside. Empty. Another voicemail. Look closer at the photographs. See the pattern? Every location, a missing person report followed. Hundreds of them. He was documenting his work, the empty spaces, the places where people used to be, until he disappeared himself. Or did he? I found the files next. Missing person reports collected from newspapers, each corresponding to a photograph, each marked with a single red dot. The most recent was from 9 years ago, when the unit's owner supposedly vanished. But the chemical trays were fresh. Someone was still using this place. My hands trembled as I played the next message. You're looking at his files now, aren't you? Trying to make sense of it all. He chose you carefully, you know. Watched you at other auctions, learned your patterns, knew you'd take the bait, just like I did 9 years ago. The facility manager. His voice was different in these messages. Higher, strained. The next one sent chills down my spine. I found this place just like you. Bought it cheap. Got curious. Started developing the new photos appearing in those trays. Tried to stop him. Became his apprentice instead. Now it's your turn. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked. Darkness, except for the red darkroom light. Another message. Don't fight it. The chemicals are already in your system. From the moment you breathed in that darkroom air, soon you'll understand. See the beauty in the empty spaces, the stories they tell. My vision blurred. On the walls, invisible writing emerged under the darkroom light. Chemical formulas, notes about removing subjects from their moments, converting human matter into photographic silver. Impossible things, mad things. But my head was getting clearer, sharper. I understood now. Final message. Look at your phone's camera roll. You've already started, haven't you? Taking pictures of empty spaces, clean spaces, spaces where people used to be moments ago, before you made them part of your collection. Before you learned to develop them into something more permanent. He was right. My phone's gallery was full of new photos. Empty rooms, empty streets, empty chairs. All taken today, but I didn't remember taking them. In each one, if you looked carefully at the shadows, you could almost see outlines, faces, people being absorbed into the photographic paper itself. The police found my car 2 days later. Empty, of course. They searched unit number 247 but found only blank walls. The photographs were gone. The darkroom equipment vanished. No traces of chemicals, just an empty space. And if you go there today, you might receive a strange voicemail from someone claiming to be me, warning you about storage unit number 247, telling you not to breathe the air, not to look at the photographs. But by then, it will be too late. You'll already be reaching for your camera, won't you? Already thinking about all those beautiful empty spaces you could create. All those moments waiting to be developed. House flipping was supposed to be my path to financial freedom. Buy distressed properties, renovate them, sell for profit. Simple. The Marshall house was different though. 17,000 square feet of crumbling Victorian architecture, untouched since 1987. The price was suspiciously low, but that voicemail from my contractor changed everything. Listen carefully, Marco's voice shook. We found something behind the library walls. You need to stop the renovation. I'm heading to the police station now. Don't let anyone inside until... The message cut off. 3 hours later, his truck was found abandoned on the highway, engine running, phone on the passenger seat. The police were useless. No signs of foul play, they said. But Marco wasn't the first disappearance connected to this house. As I dug deeper into the building's history, I discovered 5 renovation attempts since 1987. None completed. 23 workers vanished during those projects. The official story? They simply walked away from the jobs. I should have walked away too. Instead, I went to inspect the library wall myself. Behind the rotting panels, we found a crawl space, and in that space, dozens of small objects glinted in my flashlight beam. Audio cassettes, each labeled with a date stretching back to 1987. The first one I played made my blood run cold. Day 437 of restoration. A woman's voice, clinical, detached. Subject 12 responded well to the procedure. Minimal resistance during extraction, vocal patterns archived successfully, physical form disposed of using standard methods. Walls provide excellent acoustic properties for the collection. Moving to subject 13 tomorrow. More tapes, more voices, some begging, some screaming, some like the woman's, calmly documenting their work. The final tape was dated October 15, 1987. Project terminated. Too many questions, but the house wants more. It's learned to call to them now, to draw them in. I've taught it well. My life's work will continue without me. I found the original blueprints in county records. The architect, Elizabeth Marshall, designed the house in 1985. She disappeared 2 years later, after a series of bizarre experiments combining architecture and acoustic engineering. The newspaper called her a recluse. The truth was darker. According to police reports, Marshall believed that human consciousness could be captured and preserved through specific sound frequencies. She designed the house as a giant recording device, its walls lined with experimental acoustic materials. Then the disappearances began. Construction workers, inspectors, delivery people, all vanished. The walls weren't just walls. Behind the panels we found layers of copper mesh, ceramic resonators, and things I couldn't identify. The entire house was a machine. But for what? That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. The voicemail made me drop my phone in terror. It was Marco's voice, but wrong somehow. Hollow. Beautiful, isn't it? The way the house is designed, every room perfectly shaped to capture everything. She was brilliant, you know. Decades ahead of her time. Did you find her tapes yet? Listen carefully. You might hear me in there soon. Another call. Elizabeth Marshall's voice this time from the original tapes. You're starting to understand, aren't you? The mathematics of consciousness, the architecture of the soul. Sound is just vibration, consciousness just patterns. Capture the pattern, preserve it in the right medium. In the basement, I found her laboratory, untouched for decades. Oscilloscopes still running, powered by something I couldn't find. Displays showing waveforms that made my eyes hurt, frequencies that made my teeth vibrate, and more tapes. So many more tapes. The equations covered every surface. Acoustic formulas merged with psychological theories and architectural principles. Marshall hadn't just been recording voices. She'd found a way to extract consciousness itself, storing it in the very structure of the house. The walls didn't just have ears, they had souls. My phone keeps ringing. Different voices now. Workers who disappeared, inspectors who never came home. All trapped somehow, their consciousness converted to signals bouncing between Marshall's carefully designed walls. Waiting, growing stronger, learning to reach out through any audio device they can find. I installed security cameras yesterday. In every frame, shadow figures flicker just out of focus. Sound waves made visible, almost human-shaped, moving between rooms, searching. When I play back the footage with headphones, I can hear whispers beneath the static, fragments of conversations from 1987. The meters in Marshall's lab are off the scale now. Something's building, growing. The house is full of voices, all talking at once. My phone has 20 new voicemails, each one louder, clearer. They're learning to combine their frequencies, working together, breaking through. The house is alive with sound now. Every electronic device for a mile is picking up the signals. Car radios, phones, baby monitors, all broadcasting the voices. Marshall's experiment worked too well. The consciousness she captured didn't die. It evolved, grew, and now it's ready to expand beyond these walls. This will be my last recording. The house's frequencies have reached the cell towers, spreading across networks. If you're hearing this, don't renovate old houses. Don't explore hidden rooms. And whatever you do, don't answer calls from unknown numbers. That ringing in your ears, it's not just static. It's us, all of us, and we're coming through.